What it do, comic babies? I'm Bunkmaster B, and today we're talking about my buddy Ben Templesmith. So, if you don't know, Ben is probably, he's an artist, comic artist, been in the industry for many, many years, and he's probably most famous for the horror comics 30 Days of Night that he did with Steve Niles. It was later adapted into a movie with Josh Hartnett, so maybe you've seen it, maybe you've read it. But he's had a pretty long career in comics, and he's got a new book coming out through Whatnot Publishing, written by Comic Tom, called Crashdown. And you can, it's actually hit previews, hasn't hit FOC yet, you can still order it, and I'm really excited about it. And so I wanted to take this time to talk about a few of my favorite titles by Ben Templesmith, and who knows, maybe there'll be something exciting coming out at the end of this. But I'm kicking this off with my favorite Ben Templesmith story, and that is Fell. So Fell was a series that came out from Image Comics back in the mid-2000s. I want to say it started coming out around like 2006, 2005 or so. And this series was awesome. This was, it's the story of a detective, Richard Fell, who transfers across the bridge into Snowtown, which is a not so nice city. You can kind of think of it as like a weirder Gotham City. It's the place that you don't want to be. When he got the transfer across the bridge, everyone's kind of wondering what was happening since he was a good cop, and good cops don't go to Snowtown. And the whole idea of this particular story is that Warren Ellis, who was the writer, he would just find really weird news stories. Just the weirdest things that he could. I mean, the kind of thing that now we would talk about as like a Florida Man story. Florida Man wrestles a gator, later marries her. Some kind of crazy news story that happens like that. And Fell is all of these weird stories adapted into a mystery that's going around it. And all the while, there's kind of this loose mystery about Snowtown and what happened to Fell that caused him to go there, all kind of going around it. And it's excellent. The whole thing is drawn, as you'll see, in a 9-panel grid and really covers a lot of ground. So let's check it out. All right. So we're not actually opening the trade to start with. You guys saw that in the opening section, but we're doing something a little bit different. For the first time, I believe, on this channel, I'm opening one of my original art binders. So I'm just going to go ahead and casually flip on through here till we get what we're looking for. Don't mind me, we're just trying to get to where we're going. I think it's somewhere here in the back. There we go, that's what we're looking for. So what we're checking out here is actually the individual issues. And part of that is to show off the cool sketches that Ben did for me on mine. But we're also taking a look at something else with that. So this is from the first time that I ever met Ben. And he just did some very, very quick kind of head sketch remarks on them. He was like, yeah, I can do Fell real quick. And I asked him about Nixon, and he was like, oh, I haven't drawn her in forever. And he's like, I could do it, but it'll be pretty bad. I still love that one. But there's a few things that I want to show off here. So the first thing, one of the big reasons that this book existed was this $1.99 price tag. So when this book was coming out, close to 15 years or so ago, actually it's probably getting closer to 20 years ago at this point. This was when books were starting to creep up from $2.50 to $3. And we look at that now and be like, man, I wish books were that cheap. But Warren talked about how he kind of missed the days when comics were sort of really affordable, and you could grab a whole bunch for that same $3 back in the the days when they were a quarter off the rack or something like that. And so he wanted to make a book that was going to be hard-capped at $1.99 at the time. And the way that he did it structure-wise is each issue is only 16 pages of actual comic content. And then each one has a whole bunch of back matter where he writes kind of about the actual process of the issue, the story that inspired it. I think I talked about up front how each of these stories here follows a case that came from a real-world weird news story. And so he kind of talks about that there. And in order to make it seem like it was, really kind of capturing a full comic's worth, just about every single page is 9-panel grid and really advances the storyline. And so, we start off here. Throughout the series, we get kind of these interspersed images where there's going to be a photo and a little post-it note where Fell talks about, his kind of notes here. And so we start off right here where Coroner is taking a body away of the new apartment that Richard Fell just moved into in Snowtown. We see the Snowtown tag right there, and we see the illustrious Nixon nun that I mentioned earlier. We see Fell taking pictures there. But again, all of these, the main character of this is Detective Richard Fell, but almost just as much is the actual city of Snowtown as well, and just all the weird things that are going on right now. And if you've ever read a Warren Ellis book, the tone is going to be very, very familiar right here. You can see with the police chief, saying, you see, we cannot win. We're in hell, you and I. And I think you were probably transferred here so that I didn't die alone. And I'm grateful for that. I think we'll be friends. And you get this really kind of intense speech while he's looking on. And then immediately after, I have to take quite a lot of pills now. And just, very, very funny. Kind of, going from the very serious to just very goofy. And then this is Mako. She is sort of Fell's introduction to Snowtown. She's his link to the town and maybe a romantic interest, but really she's the local that kind of fills him in. And so we get 16 pages of content here. Again, we get these little kind of throwaway shots. My Place, Idiots, Mako's. And throughout each issue, Fell and here he gets the Snowtown tag to keep him safe, and so for the rest of the series, he has that this Snowtown tag on his neck right there. But we find out kind of these very weird stories that he ends up solving. Gets an interesting cast of characters. And then again, we get these back issues, this back matter right here. And this is one of the shames of the trade paperback, is that it doesn't include this back matter right here. And each and every one, again, Warren talks about the process himself. He talks about, he gives a little plot right there. Ben Templesmith was the illustrator of the hugely successful serialized graphic novel 30 Days of Night. He turned to religion if God came to his studio and promised him he'd never have to draw another vampire before he dies. Again, just these little eccentricities going through there. And then you can see next issue, we have a little preview there, which I happen to have right here. And neat little thing. So this image right here is not actually drawn. This is actually a photo. So this is supposed to be Richard Fell. This is a photo of Ben that he took, and then they put kind of a filter on. And then you can see throughout we get these other images right here. Again, I have the full set. But it's such this delightful, weird series full of crazy detective cases and kind of the goings-on of the town. And I'm really hoping that we get to see the rest of the series coming soon. I'd love to see this come back. I'd love to see what happens. We got to find out who the Nixon nun is. Actually, so I've mentioned the Nixon nun a lot, but I never really said what Nixon nun is. And so Nixon nun was one of the characters that was part of the mystery of Snowtown. And every issue, Fell just happens upon Nixon nun, who is just a nun, someone wearing a nun's habit, wearing a Richard Nixon mask, doing increasingly strange things. So in this one, you just see Nixon nun getting an ice cream from Uncle Bob Ice Cream and eating the ice cream while wearing the mask. And one of the things with Nixon nun is they always have this one little reflective eye coming through there. Ben doesn't even know what's going on with Nixon nun. He thinks that Nixon nun is a man. I think that Nixon nun is a woman, but at this point, only Warren knows. And hopefully, that's just one of the things that we will get to find out with that series. But this is a little bit of Fell. Again, my favorite Ben Templesmith series. So that was it. That's Fell. I don't know if you could kind of get a sense from this overview if this is the kind of book that you're like. It's a very particular book. It's the kind of thing that even to this day, people still love, people still really enjoy. There was an announcement for a brief time it was going to be coming back when Warren was kind of going through his things. He is in the process of trying to rectify some of those issues. He has been working through some remediation, and it was kind of put on the back burner. Not sure if you could get a sense from flipping through it, if you haven't read it before, if this is the kind of book that you're going to be into. It's weird, it's a little grotesque at times, it's strange, but it's so good. Highly, highly, highly suggest, if this sounds even remotely up your alley, check out the trade. The trade covers the first 8 issues. There are 9 that are out total right now. So number 9, it's actually kind of a little bit harder to find. It came out a few years after the rest of the 8. It isn't collected in this. Hopefully, we do see Fell get continued at some point in the future. I know I'd love to see that. I know Ben's really excited for it. He keeps talking about he himself wants to find out about what the deal with Nixon nun is, because he doesn't even know, and he's hoping that he gets to find out. But I want to hear, have you read Fell before? Were you a longtime reader picking it up for $2 when it was first coming out? Are you thinking maybe this is the kind of story that you'd enjoy and you want to check it out? Let me know down below. But in the meantime, I've been Bunkmaster B. You all have been amazing. Stay awesome. Catch you next time.